Fair or foul isolating a single player for an entire match?
The strategy could be in that match against the Fives.
I mean, I'm sure the Saslows are feeling pretty good too because they saved a lot of money on team dinners because now they can have half of them order off the kids menu.
Chicken tendies, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and if we could go less than 1% for Jade, I would do that.
I just threw it a bone there at 1% for Jade Kawamoto.
The next time Jade gets angry and throws something will probably be the first one. Everybody, welcome back to The Line, brought to you by MLP, presented by DoorDash, sponsored by Polymarket, the leading prediction market in all the land. I am your host, Jimmy Miller, with the one, the only, the legend, the former PPA champion, Adam Stone. So we just came back. We had Grand Rapids Mid-Season Tournament, 24 teams. I mean, look, there's a lot we can talk about, a lot of things that we can kind of go over quickly and then kind of preview San Diego. But it went very chalk. It went very much as we expected. There wasn't a lot of huge upsets. There wasn't, unfortunately, the college teams were a little bit overmatched, like we thought. Europe and Australia were overmatched. I will say Ryan Morneau was solid for the college team.
Yeah, yes, he was. And we had talked on the previous episode about sometimes chalk is the play without a big return. Sometimes taking a flyer on some underdogs for the bigger return is the play. We went chalk, and that's exactly what happened. The St. Louis Shock and the New Jersey Fives pretty much steamrolled everyone up to the finals, and your boy Ryan Morneau was the only one who was able to capture a game win of those first four matchups. So it was all the matches stopped at 3-0. So of those teams, Canada, Europe, Australia, and College All-Stars, 3-0, 3-0, 3-0, 3-1. So that was a 12-1 game situation. And those percentages and what you had to risk was only around 60, 70%. So that was definitely the play to pump for the Fives and the Shock for the entire tournament, and then those MLP teams seated 9 through 12 against the new teams for that first round.
So far, we've been doing this. This is our fourth or fifth episode now. I'm losing track, which means I'm having a good time. But fifth episode, it seems like hammering the favorites has been the play, right? The returns aren't as big as if you hit some sort of upset, and but hammering the favorites has been the play so far this year. And it does feel like the Shock are starting to separate themselves a little bit from everybody else. There was some questions early on. They finished third in the first event. They didn't win the second event. They lost to LA, I believe. And now they are full speed ahead. But after getting just pummeled twice in a row by the Shock, I mean, LA did... it was 12-10, 12-10 in gender.
Yeah, so no, you're exactly right. I said steamrolled all the way through. That was not correct. I was second-guessing myself as soon as I said that. And I believe in that match with the Mad Drops, the ladies, Catherine Parenteau and Jade Kawamoto, actually had a game point in that 12-10 loss.
They did.
So that was far from a steamrolling. And then you look at the Mad Drop score line, and then you look at the score line against the Fives in the final, two very different matches there.
Yeah, and they started, those Mad Drops women, they started down 7-1 in that. And I legitimately, I would love to put a clock on it, but I think that it was probably 15 plus minutes of time that St. Louis was stuck on 7. And it was like 1 point at a time, the Mad Drops would get a point, force the side out, get a point, and just chipped away. Ended up having that game point, couldn't get it done. Now, interesting thing though, Stoney, is Catherine Parenteau received an orange card for spiking the ball at the end of that women's match. It hit the net, flew into the stands and hit a fan, and they started men's down a point in a game that they lost 12-10.
Oh my. Oh, I actually did not even know that. Catherine Parenteau, of all people, who I think is known as a cool, calm, and collected, nice player on tour, but she definitely has fire in the belly, and she is not a big fan of losing. So I have seen, some of that come out, but I am surprised about the ball spike into the stands.
If I were to come to you and I'd say, hey, Kate Fahey, Anna Bright, Jade, and Catherine all played. One of them spiked the ball into the stands. It's probably Jade's last on your to come to mind. Catherine's probably second to last. But yeah, Catherine,
Uh-huh.
I mean, and she hit it into the net and it kind of ricocheted. She was just, but out of anger. And yeah, so they started that men's down a point and
Right.
ended up losing 12-10. It came in and kind of loomed large there.
Yeah, well, Polymarket is our sponsor, so I would go the 4 players on court, percentage
Yeah.
chance. I'm gonna go 1% for Jade Kawamoto,
Yeah.
3% for Catherine Parenteau. I'll go 16% for Anna Bright and 80% for Kate Fahey of all of those 4 players of
Yes,
who to spike
I
the
agree
ball
with,
into the net.
I agree with that. And if we could go less than 1% for Jade, I would do that.
Yes. Yeah. I just threw it a bone there at
I would
1%
say
for Jade
the
Kawamoto.
next time Jade gets angry and throws something will probably be the first time.
Yes.
So yeah, so I mean, again, the Shock end up, they kind of rolled through the fives. I do want to ask you a question before we get into San Diego a little bit. Fair or foul, Adam Stone? And we'll talk about kind of our risers, our stock up and stock down coming up, but fair or foul isolating a single player for an entire match?
Unfathomably fair. Like this is what you do. And I'm not going to go into any details here, but I formerly coached Eric Lang, who is the coach for the St. Louis Shock. And I might have been involved in the discussion with Eric about what the strategy could be in that match against the Fives. And I've even said it on the broadcast a couple times. Like, I think that sometimes players, even when they know they should isolate, you have that rec play vibe where sure you hit 3 or 4 to one person, but then you just throw one to the other player because that's kind of the rhythm and the flow of it. I've been calling for a full ice out of Anna Leigh Waters for quite some time, and she's just so damn good. I think that the Shock had the perfect personnel to completely isolate, go for Georgia Johnson, give her dead dinks to where she can't speed up out of the air, and then sometimes her decision making and her confidence in what Georgia wants to do wanes, and that's exactly what happened in that matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's interesting. I agree with you 100%. Like, look, this is pro pickleball. I mean, we see double teams in basketball. We see, double team, the best receiver in football, right? Like this is pro pickleball's version of that. And I, I mean, it's incredible strategy. And to be honest with you, it's up to Anna Leigh and it's up to Noe because what's wild is Noe gets it too. It's up to them to obviously switch things up. It's up to Georgia as well, right? She's got to try and get them off the line. What
Yep.
does she got to do to change their rhythm? Does she need to mix in the lob so that they can't just pound balls to
Right.
her over and over and over
Right.
again? And then does
Correct.
AL need to get bigger, right? And there's
Right.
this big
Yeah.
misconception, and you're obviously one of the best coaches in the game. Like, it's incredible your mind, but there's this misconception, in my opinion, where it's like, oh, you got to keep them honest, keep the other player honest. You don't need to keep them honest if they're not asserting themselves. There's no reason to keep them honest if they're not going to come far enough over.
That's right. Until they give you a reason to do it. That's exactly right. I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. And really, I think that while I would still give the edge to Anna Bright as a partner for Anna Leigh, I think Georgia is a phenomenal talent. I love her. She has some very special skill sets in what she does, especially on the power side of things. But I do think that Anna Bright has a much better skill set to handle getting every single ball. So I'm wondering, this is a copycat league. I'm wondering that we saw some success here from the St. Louis Shock in this matchup with the Fives. Does that carry over to the PPA season and the rest of the MLP regular season and playoffs? And if it does happen, which I think it might, Georgia definitely needs to figure something out, and they need to have a more concrete strategy and how to deal with the full-fledged freeze out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it has to, I mean, if you're not using this strategy, right, you're doing it wrong because the Anna Leigh Waters has lost, I can count on one hand in the last, year and a half, right? Like
Yeah.
how many times, I mean, we can count on two hands how many times she's lost in the last 3 years. And so the fact that, it was 11-6, they were never really in the game. Like there was clear frustration there. If you're not copying that strategy, yeah, you're definitely doing it wrong. Now, look, not everybody has the skill set of Anna Bright and Kate Fahey, right? Georgia Johnson's going to eat a lot of people up. She's gonna,
Sure.
she's better than 99% of the people out there. But Kate and AB are I mean, if they can implement this, they are a nightmare matchup.
I agree. And I don't think people realize how many very good players actually can struggle a little bit, either physically with their skill set or mentally, just completely locking into a basic, simple strategy. It's not like you're just, hey, just hit the ball to Anna Leigh Waters. I don't think you realize that it's a little more difficult than that. And you have to have the consistent ability. You have to have someone in front of Georgia that can handle it when she fires, and you have to have two players that are mentally strong to keep plugging away and passing up even opportunities at times to stay with the strategy. And that is not as cut and dry as some people think that it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole adage, right? Like pass up a good shot for a better shot, right? And that's kind of what you have to do in that strategy, because a good shot against Georgia, is probably not a good, it might be good against other people and it might not be good against a player like Georgia. So, but again, yeah, it was a great strategy. The Shocker rolling, that's, what, 3 in a row for them over the fives, and
Yep.
LA. Like, I mean, they're beating the top of the top in 3 straight. They're not even really being pushed at this point. The other sneaky is Columbus, ends up in third, kind of unassuming. They were struggling a little bit, but Paris and Tyra played great this week.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And just one last thing on that freeze out situation is, while she's an elite mover, a ridiculous athlete, the one of the only knocks that you can say about Anna Leigh Waters is she's 5'6".
Yeah.
So when you're 5'6", that is a lot different than, trying to, for instance, freeze out Max Freeman when Ben
Yeah.
is 6 feet and he can really cover a lot more of the court. So just wanted to mention that. And of course, yes, Columbus Sliders, definitely, I mean, just as balanced of a roster as you can have. I know that we briefly touched on CJ Klinger having a slight dip in level over the last handful of months, but when you have those two ladies, you have King Andre, the captain, and you have the crafty lefty youngster and CJ Klinger. There's not a lot of holes, not a lot of spots to go, and all 4 of the matches, men's, women's, and both
Yeah,
mixed, against the
absolutely.
Sliders.
So let's get into San Diego a little bit. We're going to see some changes. Now, the trade deadline originally was yesterday, Sunday, the 12th. Is it the 12th? Yes. But they pushed it back to the 20th. Essentially, what the league
Uh-huh.
decided is they're trying to figure out some structure with salary caps and salary floors and franchise tags and some league structure moving forward. Now, I actually, there look, MLP gets a lot of grief for, wait 5 minutes and it's going to change, right? The rules are going to change, and rightfully so. But I'm actually in agreement with this, that we're going to try and get this right, and let's take our time on this and let's make sure we get it right. And it's probably not fair for teams to make decisions and trades based off of an old structure if the new structure's changing, right? There's players whose
Right.
value is going to be exponentially
Yeah.
higher and exponentially lower based off of the 2027 league structure.
Yeah, agree completely. And I understand the frustration of some fans and some people, in the know in the sport. But if you really look at the grand scheme of things, the league's still in the infancy. And to have some of this shuffling and inconsistencies with the rules and having these trades, I don't think it's shocking at all, not surprising. And there will eventually be a time down the road where there's a threshold where it could be more frustrating and more uncalled for to have rule changes, but I don't think that time is right now. Get it right, get it set to optimize the league and make it the best. If you have to have some changes in these first few years, that's
Yeah,
just how it is.
absolutely. And so going into San Diego, a couple of moves were made. So one of the somewhat surprises of Grand Rapids was the Phoenix Flames. They went to 2 Dream Breakers, which were tough. They ended up not being able to pull them out. They picked up a win there over. They went to. My mind just went blank, but it just felt like the Flames played pretty well, but they lost two Dream Breakers, and so they went out and made a move. They traded Wyatt Stone, who wasn't really playing a lot anyways. He was kind of stuck behind Cam Chafin and
Right.
LJ, and they went and got Mike Lloyd to help them in that Dream Breaker scenario. You like that move?
Yeah, no, definitely got a little cash back to work with
Yeah,
also. So for that move right there, I think Wyatt Stone's pretty good, to be
I
honest
do.
with
I
you.
do too.
And I think that if you throw him onto the Hogs, there's some possible chances to look for one of those big underdogs with a big payback later in the season on Polymarket. So I'm not saying that they're going to go out there and, beat Texas or Atlanta or somebody like that, but one of the lower teams that in the bottom handful of teams, I think the Hogs are more in a position to take down one of those teams. And if you're getting a good return, that could be a good option later in the season.
It's funny you
Also,
say that because that
um,
was actually I think the Hogs got better, and I would say that increases any chances. Like I said, I would maybe look at them against a lower level team, a Florida possibly because Florida made a move
right,
too,
exactly.
and I think Phoenix got better.
Right. Yeah. And also just to clarify, LJ, you would think JT, that's Jonathan Trung. It's Little
Yeah,
John. So that's where the LJ comes from Jonathan Trung. And yeah, I know that the Phoenix Flames are pretty enamored with Cam Chafin and his youth and his skill set. So to get better in the Dream Breaker, not really give away one of your starters, or for sure not give away one of your starters, as Wyatt hasn't been playing much. I think that makes sense. And the ladies, Alexa Schull and Daria Walchak, have been finding their footing and getting a little bit better as the events move through. So another move here is Emma Nelson from the California Black Bears. And you guys got Jelena Ingram and a little bit of cash in that
yeah.
transaction.
So Emma, we were super high on Emma. I mean, we traded Kiora Kunimoto because we were so high on Emma. To be honest with you, and it just there was I probably shouldn't say too much here, but there was a little bit of a disconnect in Chicago between Jelena and her partner, and
Uh
it
huh.
kind of made her expendable, so to speak. And Chicago actually reached out to us, and they were like, "Look, we love the idea of pairing Emma and Elsie. We know that we can't go to clubs or bars or anything because they're 13 and 15, but we love this idea of picking them up from junior high every day and taking them to practice. So what's it going to take?" And they went straight youth movement. And yeah, I mean, look, Emma's a
Uh
great
huh.
player. I think Emma has a good skill set, but Emma's 15 years old, and she's young. And Jelena,
Right.
because we made another move on top of this, which we'll talk about. So we think that Jelena helps us in terms of like her dream breaker. She's a solid singles player. Again, she's young, and a little bit of she needs a little bit of refining, but I think she's a solid player. And then the other move we made is Maya Bowie, who we only had for a minute, for Zoe Wild. Now we gave up a little cash, but Zoe has been playing really well for Florida. Um, that women's team has been probably one of the surprises of the season. I think they've been super solid, and we really like the idea of pairing Zoe next to Sard.
I think Zoe Wild is very solid. Little bit underrated. I'm not gonna
Of course not.
say she belongs in the top tier or anything, but for a player with not a massive amount of name
Yes.
recognition, I think her game is higher than that name recognition. So, yeah, I think that checks out and gives you guys a solid pairing there. And yeah, Slice, as you said, full youth movement. Really, you never know how these kids are going to develop. Is it going to be gradual, or is it going to take a big jump? But there is no more of a time to take a
Yeah.
large leap than if you are in your mid-teens. That is when you can really see someone explode. Hard to predict it, but if it does happen, that is a massive asset, and that's why you see a lot of the youthful players possibly being picked higher or for more money than some of the veterans around the league.
Well, and think of. I mean, I'm sure the Saslows are feeling pretty good too because they saved a lot of money on team dinners because now they can have half of them order out the kids menu.
Chicken tendies. Yeah,
Chicken tendies
that's
for,
right.
yeah, it's nice. Makes it nice. So, all
Pretty
right.
good
So,
stuff there.
let's take a look at San Diego here. So,
Yep.
Polymarket, listen, if you were going to, hammer some lines here, the nice thing about Polymarket for San Diego right now is it's almost everything's almost a pick 'em. It's almost 50-50 across the board on a lot of these matchups. And as we know, we kind of know who the favorites are. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity in San Diego on Polymarket.
Right. Yeah. And I know some of the, this sports betting, or it's not even necessarily sports betting, the prediction market, I should say. But, some of the volume is not as significant as it will be as we move forward. So those lines can fluctuate. And sometimes, you can find a little bit of value where you need to. And yeah, like I'll go through the groups real fast and I'll give you my rough percentages for what I would predict in these groups. And then we'll talk through the teams a little bit. For Group A, I would put Los Angeles Mad Drops 80% favorite. I will give the Flash, who I think have done a nice job filling in the roster after some tough draft and some solid moves, at 12%. Bouncers and Black Diamonds 4% each, and a big fat goose egg there for the Breakers to possibly take that Group A. So very chalky, very, very top heavy actually in both groups for me. But does that line up to what you're thinking, or do you think I missed the mark
No,
on a
no, oh,
couple of those?
absolutely. I look, LA is heavy favorites. They're technically the host team here. They're doing, meet and greets and all the activities and things. Um, the only potential, I don't know, hiccup is do we see a little bit of fatigue, from them? I can't even imagine. Everybody came from midseason. Everybody just played. I just can't see any way that LA
Right.
doesn't roll through that group. Jade and Catherine have had a little bit of, maybe not as good as they were last year. Max and Catherine have shown some weaknesses in that mixed. Does LA make a move? I honestly don't know, but whether they do or they don't, I think LA, I think 80%. I mean, it might even be higher, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure. And like I said, the Flash, I mean, it's not just because they kind of steamrolled my SoCal Hard Eights at this past midseason tournament, but it's pretty balanced,
Yeah.
So comfortability between Danielle Townsend, who has that alpha game and alpha mindset with Alex Trung next to her. And then, of course, JW and Augie have been together for years on the Dallas Flash. So, if there is a team to make a move, if they're playing at their tippity top and we get a little uh, less from LA, or we get 80% Ben instead of close to 100, which he's been giving us in the first few events of the year, then that could be a team that could sneak in there and possibly
Yeah.
capture that first group. Bouncers have looked better
They
with the
have.
acquisition of Mari Humberg, with a balanced roster of Jesse, Mari, Jay DeVilliers, and Jaume Martinez Vic. And then the Diamonds also with a pretty balanced roster of Editu Ionatoa, Elise Jones, Thomas Shimabukuro, and CG Connor Garnett.
Hey, is it time for Utah to do something about that men's pairing? I mean, that men's pairing it's struggled a lot more than I think a lot of people expected. They're the only ones to lose to one of the four in Grand Rapids. They lost to the college team.
Yep.
They've lost a couple of really matches that you thought they would be heavy favorites on. Now look, Tama is learning the right. CG, I don't know how to say this other than CG has a very right side game, but he is a left sider. He can't
Uh-huh.
really, he doesn't have a big forehand at all. He kind of, it's all cross, sits in the cross over and over with that Tui. And there's just not a lot, there's not, he's not intimidating by any means. He doesn't take a lot of court. He's fast and he's athletic and all the things, but he just doesn't have that prototypical left side game. And it's like, is this experiment over? Do we need to switch it up for
Right.
them? I don't know. I'm just,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I would say he's not overwhelming on the
Yes,
left, and
that's probably the
that's
best way
kind
to
of
put
what
it.
you
Yeah.
want when you don't. when you don't have a lefty next to you. I think Connor's a very good player. I think he's actually made some improvements on his forehand, but still his weaker
Yeah.
wing compared to the backhand. So I would say no on making a change. I think you let Tama develop, and I don't really think that any move is gonna propel them to a significantly higher slot. But I would say overall it has been an underperformance from them, as you know, Thomas Shimabukuro is the it guy for the last few months, and I don't
Yeah,
think it's
and
fully
that's the thing. Like,
materialized.
we can throw out all these suggestions and like, is it time? But like, what is the improvement and who's available? And what move could they actually make that is going to improve them significantly? And that's probably not out there right now, to be honest. So,
Right.
so yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with those numbers. Let's look at the our pool, Adam. Weird, we get to play again.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and it's pretty dang top heavy again. Columbus, I mean, they are as I said, there is not a lot of weak
Yeah.
links on that roster. So, I mean, I have Columbus up in the 88% range. I will throw a bone. I would probably have Squeeze at a higher percentage, but they have lost Lacey Schneeman in an extremely unfortunate event. Jackie Kawamoto from the Brooklyn pickleball team practicing with the Squeeze, and Schneeman went back for the lob and stepped on Millie Rain's foot. I was there when it happened at MVP Athletic Club, and it looked like half a pickleball on the ankle of
Fair or
Schneeman, and
foul, lobbing in
that's a
rec
tough break.
games.
Well, I mean, I would say in general, I would say foul, but it actually is a pretty important part of Jackie Kawamoto's game, her topspin lob, and you got to get some touches and some feel for that shot, not during the match. So I'm going to let it slide for
Yes, and
Jackie,
she's so
but
good
I
at it.
would
Like, it
say
is
in
so good. I
general,
mean,
foul for
how
me.
many clean winners does she have off of that? It's insane.
Yes. A lot. A lot, yeah. So I think with Schneeman being out, Alex Walker, fine player, but not near the ceiling of Lacey Schneeman. We did not have Jack Sock at the midseason tournament. I believe he was still recovering
Yeah,
from Taylor
yeah.
Swift
I
and
mean,
Travis
what a
Kelce's
world
wedding
we
that he
live in when we have pro
attended.
pickleball players
So,
attending Taylor Swift's wedding.
yeah, right, right. Yeah, so it was
Yeah,
Ibiza and
yeah.
Roscoe for an event,
I'll be
and now it's
honest.
Taylor Swift's wedding for Jack
I,
Sock. So I
I'll
mean,
be honest.
I'm
Like, I
not
don't
getting
blame Jack.
invited or
I'm going
going
to
to.
that wedding. Yeah, yeah.
You have to go. You have to go. So I think with Schneeman out, that I put them at a pretty low percentage, and I think it's around where SoCal sits at a very low percentage, around the 4 or 5% mark, given how good the Columbus slider is. I love my squad. I love the talent of the Squeeze, but the slide, it's going to be dang tough to beat the sliders in Pool B. And then you guys did not have Pablo Tellez at the midseason tournament, but will have him here. So I would put you guys right in that clump, maybe a little bit below SoCal and the Squeeze, and another big fat goose
Yeah,
egg for the
so
last team
yeah,
in that group,
I actually
the
agree with
Florida
you there.
Smash. Just don't
We've
see an
got
avenue
to
to them
figure out,
possibly
obviously,
winning the pool.
there's you need time to mesh. You need time to figure out, people's games, and there's always that adjustment period. The interesting thing with us, this is now our third or fourth time playing Columbus this year. No, it's our third time. So we beat their women, Danielle and Paris, the first time we played them, and we had their men game point, multiple game points on their men. Second time we played them in Austin, we took them
Okay.
to a dream breaker. And so we've played them tough. We have yet to beat them, but for whatever reason, we have played them tough. However, now it's Tyra, now it's Paris, now it's not 6 CJ, and Andre is Andre. And I think that team is
Yep.
peaking at the right time, and they are going to be very, very dangerous in the playoffs. And if they can get that top 4 seed
Yep.
over like a Brooklyn who is banged up, and they can get a bye and they can rest, and
Yep.
man, Columbus is going to be tough.
Peaking at the right time, huh? That reminds me a little bit of last year now, doesn't it? So
Yes.
agree with you on the sliders, and all those stats you threw about your not winning, but successes against Columbus, I'm willing to bump you up from 2% to 4%.
I appreciate
so
that. See, that's all I wanted.
There you go, buddy.
That
there
is
you
all
go.
I wanted, Adam. Is give us a little bump there. Look, I think I would say I would probably hammer anyone playing Florida if it's 65% or less. I'm going to hammer that. Obviously they made some changes, and
yes,
I think Columbus. We're probably, if you had to put my money on it, we're probably going to see a Columbus LA rematch, which we just saw in Grand Rapids. I did hear a rumor that Ben had a 7 p.m. flight in Grand Rapids. And so maybe he wasn't too concerned about the points there at the end, and really just did not want to get to a Dream Breaker.
Huh, no, I would never have guessed something like that would happen. And I will tell you, I love Grand Rapids, but it is not the easiest place to get to. Yeah, it's very difficult. So I understand if you don't make that 7 p.m. flight, you might be screwed till the next day afternoon. So
miserable place to get to.
Whew. Yeah, it is. Love it there,
awesome.
though. Love it for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, look, we're excited.
Okay,
San Diego. Nice thing is, I looked at the weather, mid-70s all week long. Incredible weather. Barnes Tennis Center is great. Location. I mean, you guys are going to be playing in front of your home fans. I feel like this should be LA. San Diego is not LA, but San Diego is SoCal. So I feel like this should be the SoCal Hard Eights, right?
Right. So you said LA is the host team. I think it's the SoCal Hard Eights that are the host team.
Well, I mean, they should be, but I just assume because the host teams are always on center, and LA is the only team that gets every match on center. So, just saying, I don't know,
right. So
Celine,
little
if you're watching,
yeah, rundown Group A, Group B. I like the thoughts there. So my last, but right before we wrap, Jimmy, I have one more MLP trivia question. So in the very first MLP draft, who was the very first pick female?
Oh,
1-1 on the female side of things. 16 players were drafted on each gender for the very first MLP.
Was it Irina? It wasn't Irene.
It was Catherine Parenteau. 1-1 CP, and I believe Anna Leigh Waters was number 2.
That's right.
I think those would be.
She went.
I think they would be flipped.
That's right.
Currently,
and then
but that's a little.
Yeah, and then we had that stretch. Remember, I guess this is what I'm thinking, where PPA players were not playing in MLP.
Right, there was a lot of that, right? And the 16th girl to pair, with Catherine Parenteau, Yana Grechkina, now Yana Newell. So there you go. Those are the fun facts of the day.
Who you had on SoCal Hard Eights when you won a championship.
That's right. Of the Challenger division when undefeated.
Listen, who is the MLP historian? They have a tough job.
Yeah, really. There's been a lot of moving parts in MLP's history. That's for sure.
Here's one more fun fact that I was told recently, actually. You remember the Cabo team?
Yes.
That didn't last very long. So I guess they liked the name of the team so much that they didn't want MLP to have the rights to use it. So they actually left the league just so they can keep the name and use it for other pickleball related businesses.
What's the name? I don't even remember.
It was Cabo. Oh man. I can't even remember. Cabos Vamos. Is that what it was?
Cabo Vamos. Well, if we're wrong about that, someone in the comments below correct us, please.
And either way, if we can't remember, then clearly it's not that cool, guys.
That's for sure. So
anyways, all right. Well, I will see you in San Diego this week.
Yep, I leave in the morning.
Let's go to the taco stand and done. Sounds good.
All right, buddy.
All right.
We'll be back next week. Hopefully we have some good news to report for our two teams there in San Diego.